I stood frozen in the doorway, watching helplessly as my sister's 12-year-old son tossed my daughter's brand new laptop directly into the roaring fire pit. The screen shattered instantly, and the flames eagerly consumed the device I'd sacrificed everything to buy. My 16-year-old daughter Lily's scream cut through the evening air as she collapsed onto the patio, her dreams literally going up in smoke. What made it unbearable wasn't just the destruction of the $1,800 computer that had taken me 6 brutal months of overtime to afford. It was the laughter. My parents were actually laughing as my sister Amanda smirked and said, "Maybe this will teach her not to be spoiled." I felt something inside me shift permanently as I watched Lily's future burning before my eyes, knowing this moment would change everything about our family forever. I should probably back up and explain how we ended up in such a nightmare situation. My name is Jeanette, and for the past 3 years, I've been raising my daughter Lily alone after losing my husband Mark to pancreatic cancer. He was diagnosed at stage 4, and within 8 months, I went from being happily married to a widow at 34. The loss devastated both of us, but especially Lily, who had always been Daddy's little girl. Mark had been an art teacher at the local high school, and Lily inherited his creative talents. Even through her grief, she poured herself into digital art, developing skills that amazed her teachers. By 16, she was creating work that professional graphic designers would envy. Last spring, she was accepted into an elite summer digital arts program at the State University, an opportunity that could potentially lead to college scholarships and internships with major animation studios. There was just one catch. The program required participants to have their own professional-grade laptop capable of running advanced design software. The minimum specifications weren't cheap, and the recommended setup was $1,800. When Lily showed me the acceptance letter and equipment requirements, I saw the light return to her eyes for the first time since Mark died. There was no way I could tell her we couldn't afford it. Since becoming a single mother, I'd been working as a hospital administrator during the day and taking on bookkeeping clients in the evenings just to keep our modest home and pay our bills. We weren't poor, but there wasn't much room for extras. "We'll make it work," I promised her that night. "You earned this opportunity, and we're going to make sure you have what you need." For the next 6 months, I put aside $300 each month, cutting corners wherever possible. I canceled our streaming services, learned to coupon obsessively, took on extra bookkeeping clients, and sold clothes and furniture we didn't absolutely need. Lily got a weekend job at the local coffee shop to contribute, though I insisted she keep most of her earnings for spending money in college savings. While Lily and I were pinching pennies and working extra hours, my younger sister Amanda was living a completely different life. Amanda had married Tom, a successful investment banker, right after college. They lived in a sprawling home in the wealthiest suburb of our city, and she'd never worked a day since saying I do. They had 3 children: Ethan, 12, Zoe, 10, and Jackson, 8, who were notorious in our family for their complete lack of discipline. Amanda had always been my parents' favorite. Growing up, she was the pretty, popular cheerleader, while I was the studious, practical one. Our parents made it clear they considered my life choices disappointing. When I chose to marry Mark, an art teacher with a modest income, my mother had actually said, "I suppose someone has to marry for love instead of security." They'd attended our wedding with tight smiles, then lavished Amanda with a ceremony that cost more than our first house when she married Tom 2 years later. After Mark died, I'd hoped my parents might finally offer some genuine support, but their help came with constant reminders that I should have chosen better and criticisms about how I was raising Lily. Meanwhile, they doted on Amanda's children, overlooking their tantrums and destructive behavior as kids being kids. Despite all this history, we maintained the tradition of gathering for major holidays. Usually, we met at my parents' house, but this year, Thanksgiving was being held at Amanda and Tom's recently purchased lake house, a 4-bedroom vacation property they'd bought despite Tom's hints about financial strain at his firm. A week before Thanksgiving, I'd finally saved enough to purchase the laptop for Lily. I researched extensively to find the best deal on a machine that exceeded the program requirements. When it arrived, I hid it in my closet, planning to surprise her at Christmas. But after a particularly difficult shift at the hospital where I'd had to cover for a sick colleague, I decided life was too short to wait. The Thanksgiving gathering seemed like the perfect opportunity to give Lily her gift, surrounded by family who could share in her excitement. Or so I thought. The Tuesday before Thanksgiving, Amanda called me, which was unusual in itself. Typically, she only contacted me when she needed something. "Jeanette, I need you and Lily to come early on Thursday," she said without bothering with pleasantries. "Like, 9 in the morning early." "That's a 3-hour drive for us, Amanda," I replied, calculating how early we'd need to leave. "What's going on?" "I'm completely overwhelmed with preparations," she sighed dramatically. "The caterers need supervision, and Mom and Dad won't arrive until noon. Lily can help with setting the table and decorations. You know how artistic she is, right? And you can help in the kitchen." Something in her tone made me suspicious. Amanda had never asked for my help before, certainly never acknowledged Lily's talents, and I knew for a fact she had a weekly housekeeper and had mentioned hiring extra staff for the holiday. "Is everything okay with you and Tom?" I asked carefully. There was a pause. "Of course. Why wouldn't it be?" "No reason," I said. "We'll be there at 9. After hanging up, I had a nagging feeling that something wasn't right. Still, I packed our overnight bags, carefully wrapping the laptop in its box and hiding it among our things. I decided I'd give it to Lily after dinner, when everyone was relaxed and in the holiday spirit. I couldn't have known then how terribly wrong everything would go, or that Amanda's unexpected call was the first warning sign of the betrayal to come. Lily slept most of the 3-hour drive to the lake house while I sipped gas station coffee and tried to ignore my growing anxiety. The weather was surprisingly warm for late November, with sunshine glinting off the lake as we pulled into the long, winding driveway of Amanda and Tom's vacation property. The house was a massive timber and stone structure perched on a bluff overlooking the water, with floor-to-ceiling windows and multiple balconies. A fleet of luxury vehicles was already parked outside. "Wow," Lily said, fully awake now and taking in the grandeur. "Uncle Tom must be doing really well." "Apparently," I murmured, parking my 10-year-old Honda Civic beside Amanda's gleaming Range Rover. "Remember what we talked about? Just be polite, help where you can, and try not to take anything personally." Lily nodded, her expression suddenly guarded. At 16, she was old enough to understand the family dynamics at play. "I know, Mom. I've got thick skin by now." My heart ached at her words. No teenager should need thick skin around family. Amanda greeted us at the door, in designer jeans and a cashmere sweater, looking like she'd stepped out of a catalog. Her perfectly highlighted hair was swept into an artful, messy bun, and she held a glass of something that definitely wasn't coffee despite the morning hour. "Finally!" she exclaimed, checking her watch, though we'd arrived exactly at 9. "The caterers have been asking me questions I can't answer. Jeanette, go deal with them." "Lily, the decorations are in those boxes. Make the dining room look festive or whatever. No hello. No thank you for coming early. No offer to show us where we'd be staying." While Lily quietly began unpacking centerpieces and table runners, I found my way to the gourmet kitchen where 2 professionally dressed caterers were efficiently preparing food. "Mrs. Wallace sent me to help," I said, using Amanda's married name, "though it looks like you have everything under control." The head caterer looked confused. "We're fine, ma'am. Mrs. Wallace approved the menu weeks ago and we're on schedule." Did she have a specific concern? So Amanda hadn't needed my help after all. I wasn't surprised, just disappointed at being manipulated yet again. "No concern. I'll let you work," I said, retreating. I found Amanda in the great room, now refilled glass in hand, watching as her 3 children played a violent video game on a massive television. None of them acknowledged my presence. "The caterers don't seem to need help," I said. "Is there something else you needed me to do?" "Oh, they're fine now. I sorted everything out before you arrived." She waved her hand dismissively. "Just keep an eye on the kids while I shower and get ready. My stylist is coming at 11. Before I could respond, she flounced up the grand staircase, leaving me with her children, who were now shouting profanities at their game that no child their age should know. "Guys," I said gently, "maybe we could find something else to play? Something a little less intense?" Ethan, the oldest at 12, gave me a cold stare that was disturbingly adult. "Mom lets us play whatever we want. You're not our mom." I backed off, knowing from experience that enforcing rules would only create more tension. Instead, I quietly tidied the already immaculate room and checked on Lily, who was artfully arranging autumn-colored flowers and candles on the massive dining table. She'd created a stunning centerpiece that looked professional. "That's beautiful, honey," I said. She smiled briefly. "Thanks. I doubt anyone will notice." Around 11, I heard my parents arrive. I braced myself and went to greet them, putting on my best smile as they entered. My father, tall and distinguished at 68 with silver hair, gave me a cursory hug. My mother, still artificially blonde at 65 thanks to regular salon appointments, barely offered her cheek for a kiss before bustling past me to find her grandchildren. "There are my precious angels," she cooed, bearing gifts for Amanda's children, though it wasn't Christmas. "Grandma brought you each something special." I watched as my mother distributed expensive electronic gadgets to kids who already had everything, while my father slipped each child a $100 bill just because. Neither of them had remembered Lily's birthday the month before. Speaking of Lily, I found her still working in the dining room, now folding cloth napkins into elaborate shapes. I squeezed her shoulder. "Grandma and Grandpa are here." She nodded but didn't rush to greet them. Eventually, my mother wandered in and gave a distracted hello, dear to Lily, before immediately criticizing her work. "Shouldn't those napkins be folded more uniformly? And the candles aren't centered properly." I opened my mouth to defend my daughter, but Lily just smiled politely. "I'll fix them, Grandma. Thanks for the suggestion." As my mother left, I whispered, "The table looks perfect." Lily shrugged. "It's fine, Mom. I'm used to it." My heart broke a little more. I decided to move our bags from the car to wherever we'd be sleeping, hoping Amanda had at least prepared a guest room for us. As I walked toward my car, I overheard voices coming from the partially open door of Tom's home office, Amanda and my parents. "Ridiculous that she's buying Lily such an expensive laptop," Amanda was saying. $1,800. Where did she even get that kind of money? She's probably behind on her mortgage. My stomach dropped. How did Amanda know about the laptop? I hadn't told anyone. "Art school," my father scoffed. "What kind of future is that?" Jeanette never could make practical decisions. First marrying that teacher, now encouraging Lily in this fantasy career. "She's spoiling that girl," my mother agreed. "Trying to compensate for the father, I suppose, but all she's doing is setting Lily up for disappointment. Not everyone gets to follow their dreams." "Well," Amanda said, her voice taking on a tone I recognized from childhood, the one that preceded her worst behavior, "maybe someone should help Lily understand the real world." I backed away quietly, my hands shaking as I continued to my car. How had Amanda discovered the laptop? I'd told no one, and it was still hidden in its box buried beneath our overnight clothes. As I popped the trunk, I noticed something off immediately. Our bags had been shifted, and the laptop box was now visible, its seal broken. A chill ran down my spine as I lifted the box. Someone had opened it, then hastily repacked it. I glanced at the house and saw a curtain move. Someone had been watching me. I took all our things inside and found a small guest room off the kitchen, where Amanda had apparently decided we would stay. As I carefully hid the laptop box under the bed, the door opened and Amanda walked in without knocking. "Looking for something?" she asked with false sweetness. "Just putting our bags away," I replied evenly. "Were you in my car earlier?" She laughed. "Why would I go through your ancient Honda? I was looking for more wine in the garage and noticed your trunk was open. Security hazard at a lake house, you know." "I closed it for you." I knew she was lying. My trunk hadn't been open, and the garage was nowhere near where I'd parked. "Thanks for your concern," I said, keeping my voice neutral. She lingered in the doorway. "Dinner's at 4. Try to make sure Lily wears something appropriate. That thrift store look isn't really suitable for family photos." After she left, I sat on the bed, my mind racing. Something was very wrong, and I had a sickening feeling that my laptop surprise was somehow in jeopardy. But I couldn't imagine even Amanda would stoop to sabotaging a gift for her own niece. I was wrong. So very wrong. By 4 o'clock, the lake house was filled with the aroma of traditional Thanksgiving fare, though neither Lily nor I could take credit for any of it. The caterers had produced a picture-perfect meal, while we'd spent the day being decorators, servers, and babysitters for Amanda's children. Tom still hadn't arrived, with Amanda vaguely mentioning work commitments keeping him in the city until evening. Despite the tension, I was excited about giving Lily her laptop. I'd retrieved the box from under the bed and hidden it behind the sofa in the great room, planning to present it after dinner. Lily had worked so hard, and she deserved this moment of joy amidst the family dysfunction. We gathered at the table, which looked stunning thanks to Lily's artistic touch, though Amanda promptly took credit. "I stayed up all night designing this tablescape," she announced as my parents cooed with appreciation. Lily caught my eye across the table and gave an almost imperceptible shrug. I was so proud of her maturity. The caterers served course after delicious course, while Amanda regaled everyone with stories of her recent spa vacation and the children's private school achievements, though I happened to know from social media that Ethan had been suspended twice this semester for bullying. My father carved the turkey and served Amanda's children first, giving them the choice cuts while passing the less desirable pieces to Lily and me. No one asked about our lives or Lily's accomplishments, despite her recently winning a regional art competition. As dessert was being served, I decided it was time. I excused myself and retrieved the laptop box from its hiding place. "Everyone," I said, returning to the dining room with the package behind my back. "I have something special I'd like to share." All eyes turned to me, some curious, others annoyed at the interruption. "Lily has been accepted to the Advanced Digital Arts Summer Program at State University," I announced proudly. "It's extremely competitive. Only 20 students were selected nationwide." My mother immediately jumped in. "That sounds expensive. Is that wise with your financial situation?" I ignored the jab. "The program requires specialized equipment, and Lily has been working weekends at the coffee shop to contribute." I brought the box around and placed it in front of my daughter. "Lily, I am so proud of how hard you've worked, both in your art and at your job. You've shown incredible resilience these past 3 years." Lily looked at me with wide eyes. "Mom, is this?" "Open it," I encouraged, my heart full. Her hands trembled slightly as she unwrapped the package, revealing the high-performance laptop we'd researched together months ago, her dream machine. "Oh my God," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "How did you? This costs so much." 6 months of overtime and budgeting," I said simply. "Every hour was worth it to support your talent." Lily stood and hugged me fiercely, whispering thank you over and over against my shoulder. For a moment, everything else disappeared. The tension, the favoritism, the years of emotional neglect from my family. This was what mattered, my daughter's happiness. The moment was shattered by Amanda's sharp voice. "Well, that's certainly extravagant," she said, swirling her wine. "Most kids start with a basic computer. $1,800 for a teenager who'll probably just use it for social media seems excessive." "It's not for social media," Lily said quietly, her joy dimming. "It's for 3D rendering and animation. The program requirements—" Yes, your little art program," my mother interrupted. "Though I'm not sure why you couldn't just use the computers at school like normal students. The program provides the software licenses, but students need to bring compatible hardware," I explained, keeping my voice level. "It's an investment in Lily's future." My father snorted. "Art isn't exactly a stable career path. Tom's firm is always looking for interns interested in finance. That would be a more practical direction." The caterers began clearing the dessert plates, creating a welcome distraction. While the adults moved to the patio where an outdoor fireplace provided warmth in the cool evening air, Lily stayed at the dining table, carefully setting up her new laptop. "I can't believe you did this for me," she said, as I helped her remove the protective packaging. "It must have been so hard to save this much." "You're worth every penny," I told her honestly. "Your dad would be so proud of you." Her eyes welled up again at the mention of Mark. "I wish he could see what I'm creating now." "He can," I said softly, "and he's as amazed as I am." I left Lily happily exploring her new computer and joined the adults on the patio, where my parents and Amanda were discussing the recent renovations to the lake house. I checked my watch, wondering when Tom would arrive and if we should save him a plate of food. After a few minutes, I excused myself to use the bathroom. When I returned, walking through the dining room to reach the patio. I saw that Lily's laptop was gone, and so was she. A flash of movement outside caught my eye. Ethan and Jackson, Amanda's boys, were running across the lawn toward the fire pit, carrying something between them. With a surge of dread, I rushed to the patio doors. What I saw will haunt me forever. Lily was chasing the boys, screaming for them to stop. In their hands was her brand new laptop, open and powered on. My parents and Amanda stood near the large stone fire pit, watching with amused expressions. Before I could reach them, Ethan held the laptop over the flames and let go. The crash of expensive technology hitting the burning logs was followed by Lily's heartbreaking wail. She fell to her knees as the screen shattered and the case began to melt, $1,800 and all her dreams disappearing into the smoke. "No!" I screamed, finally finding my voice as I ran toward the fire. "What have you done?" Amanda's children were laughing, high-fiving each other as if they'd accomplished something praiseworthy. My parents chuckled indulgently at their antics. And then Amanda spoke the words that would change our family forever. "Maybe this will teach her not to be spoiled with things she doesn't deserve," she said, smirking as she sipped her wine. Lily scrambled to her feet and ran toward the house, sobbing uncontrollably. I stood frozen, unable to process the deliberate cruelty I had just witnessed. My own sister, my own parents, laughing at my daughter's pain, at the destruction of something that had cost me half a year of sacrifice. In that moment, I felt something fundamental shift inside me. The shock was giving way to a cold, clear purpose I'd never experienced before. This wouldn't stand. Not anymore. The crackling of the flames consuming Lily's laptop was the only sound for several moments as I stood paralyzed by shock. The acrid smell of melting plastic and electronics filled the air, a toxic reminder of what had just happened. $1,800. 6 months of overtime shifts, extra bookkeeping clients, and countless sacrifices, all gone in an instant of deliberate cruelty. Worse than the financial loss was the devastation on my daughter's face as she ran toward the house, her sobs cut through me like physical pain. She had already lost her father. Now the opportunity he would have been so proud of was literally going up in flames while family, people who should protect and support her, laughed. Amanda took another sip of her wine, looking pleased with herself. "Honestly, Jeanette, you're not doing that girl any favors by indulging these artistic fantasies. The real world doesn't work that way." My mother nodded in agreement. It was excessive. Children need to learn limits. Limits? I finally found my voice, though it sounded strange to my ears. Too calm, too controlled for the rage building inside me. "You think teaching limits involves destroying something that doesn't belong to you?" My father waved his hand dismissively. "The boys were just playing. Kids will be kids. You're overreacting, as usual." I looked at my nephews, who were now poking at the burning laptop with sticks, fascinated by how the components melted. No remorse, no recognition that they had done something wrong, just like their mother. "This wasn't a toy," I said, still in that unnaturally calm voice. It was specialized equipment for an educational program that Lily earned through her talent and hard work. It represented her future. "Oh, dramatic as always," Amanda rolled her eyes. "We'll replace it. Tom can write a check tomorrow for your precious laptop." I shook my head slowly. "This isn't about the money. It's about respect. It's about teaching children right from wrong. It's about family supporting each other instead of this." Just then, the sound of tires on gravel announced a new arrival. Headlights swept across the yard as a black Lexus pulled up. Tom was finally here. He emerged from the car looking tired, his usually impeccable appearance slightly rumpled. He took in the scene. The burning laptop in the fire pit, Amanda and my parents with drinks in hand, and me standing alone, visibly shaking now. "What's going on?" he asked, his gaze settling on the fire. "Is that a computer?" Before anyone could answer, Lily came running back from the house, car keys in hand. Her face was streaked with tears, her breathing ragged. "Mom," she gasped. "Please, can we just go? I want to go home." Tom looked between Lily and the fire pit, understanding dawning on his face. "Amanda, tell me that's not what I think it is." Amanda's smug expression faltered slightly. "The boys were just playing. Jeanette overreacted and now she's making a scene. Playing? Tom walked over to the fire pit and looked at the melting remains. That looks like a brand new laptop. What happened here? To my surprise, Tom's tone was sharp, disapproving. In all the years he'd been married to Amanda, I'd never heard him directly challenge her behavior or her parenting. My father attempted to smooth things over. Just a misunderstanding, Tom. You know how boys get excited sometimes. No real harm done. Tom turned to his sons. Ethan, Jackson, did you put that laptop in the fire? Ethan shifted uncomfortably under his father's gaze. Mom said it was okay. She said Aunt Jeanette was spoiling Lily and needed a lesson. The yard went silent, except for the crackling fire and Lily's quiet sobs beside me. Tom turned to Amanda, disbelief clear on his face. You told our children to destroy their cousin's property? As a lesson? Amanda's confidence visibly wavered. I didn't specifically say to burn it. I just mentioned that Jeanette was being ridiculous buying such an expensive computer when Lily will probably drop out of the program anyway. And you found that funny? Tom asked, looking at my parents now. You laughed at this? My mother had the grace to look slightly ashamed, though my father doubled down. The girl doesn't need a fancy computer for drawing pictures. Jeanette can't afford to be throwing money away like this. Tom ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Do any of you understand what you've just done? That's not just property destruction, that's cruel. That's bullying. Amanda's expression hardened. Don't you dare lecture me about parenting, Tom. Not when you're barely home to parent your own children. Maybe I should be home more, he replied quietly, because this isn't who I want our kids to become. The tension between them was palpable, revealing cracks in their relationship I'd never noticed before. But my focus had to be on Lily now. I put my arm around her shaking shoulders. We're leaving, I announced. Lily, go get our bags from the guest room, please. As Lily hurried back to the house, I turned to my family. I've put up with a lot over the years. The favoritism, the criticism, the disrespect. But this crosses a line that can't be uncrossed. Now you're being dramatic, Amanda scoffed, though her voice lacked its usual confidence. No, she's not, Tom said firmly. You've gone too far this time, Amanda. All of you have. He turned to me, genuine regret in his eyes. Jeanette, I'm so sorry. This is inexcusable. Amanda stared at her husband in shock. Are you seriously taking her side? After everything I've told you about how she manipulates everyone with her poor me single mother act? Tom's expression hardened. Based on what I'm seeing right now, I'm questioning everything you've told me over the years. My father stepped forward, attempting to reassert control. That's enough. This has gotten out of hand. Jeanette, stop causing a scene, and we can all enjoy the rest of the evening. The laptop is gone. There's nothing to be done about it now. Lily returned with our bags, her face pale but composed. I'm ready, Mom. I nodded and took my bag from her. But instead of heading directly to the car, I surprised everyone, including myself, by saying, actually, I need a moment inside first. Lily, wait for me in the car, please. Mom? Lily looked confused. Just 5 minutes, I promised. As Lily reluctantly went to the car, I walked back toward the house. I could feel their eyes on me, probably expecting me to leave in tears as I had after every previous family conflict. Not this time. What are you doing? Amanda called, a note of unease in her voice. I turned and looked at my sister, my parents, and Tom. With perfect calm, I said, I'm not leaving just yet. There are some things I need to take care of first. The unnatural steadiness in my voice must have communicated something, because for the first time that evening, they all looked genuinely concerned about what I might do next. The lake house felt unnaturally quiet as I stepped inside. The caterers had finished cleaning and departed, leaving behind the pristine kitchen and dining room that bore no evidence of the Thanksgiving meal or the emotional devastation that had followed. Through the large windows, I could see my family still standing by the fire pit, their body language tense as they watched me. Instead of heading toward the guest room where Lily and I had been staying, I walked purposefully to Tom's home office. The door was unlocked, and I slipped inside, closing it behind me. The room was masculine and organized, with a large desk facing the lake view and built-in bookcases filled with financial references and family photos. I took out my phone and opened my recording app. For years, I'd been documenting our family gatherings, initially as a way to prove to myself that I wasn't imagining the subtle put-downs and favoritism. After Mark died, it had become almost a compulsion, a way to process the family dynamics that had always made me feel inadequate. Today, that habit would serve a different purpose. I played back the recording from earlier, hearing again Amanda's satisfied voice as she said, "Maybe this will teach her not to be spoiled with things she doesn't deserve." The words made my stomach clench all over again. Next, I took photos of the partially melted laptop remains in the fire pit, making sure to capture clear images of the brand and model information still visible on a corner that hadn't fully burned. I sent these photos to my email with the subject line, "Evidence of Property Destruction, Thanksgiving Incident." Then I made 3 phone calls. The first was to Detective Sarah Martinez, a client whose small business books I had been keeping for years. Sarah had become a friend after her divorce, and we occasionally met for coffee. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Jeanette? Happy Thanksgiving. Everything okay?" "Not exactly," I said quietly. "I need some professional advice about a situation involving deliberate property destruction. Would you have time to talk tomorrow?" Sarah's voice immediately shifted to her professional tone. "Of course. What happened?" I gave her a brief synopsis of the laptop incident. "Document everything," she advised. "Photos, recordings if you have them, receipts for the original purchase. This is clear-cut property destruction, and if it was done with parental encouragement, there could be liability issues. I'll text you the information for filing a police report." "Thank you," I said. "One more thing. Hypothetically, if someone had been systematically taking money from a family business while keeping the other partner in the dark, what would be the first steps to address that?" There was a pause. "Jeanette, are we still talking about the laptop?" "Not directly, but possibly related." "Then I'd strongly suggest consulting with a forensic accountant and a lawyer before confronting anyone. If you need recommendations, I know several good ones." After thanking her again and ending the call, I dialed my second number. Gerald Hoffman, my grandmother Eleanor's longtime attorney. My grandmother had passed away 3 months ago at 92, and Gerald had contacted me afterward, but I'd been too overwhelmed with grief to fully process what he'd said. Now, his words were coming back with crystal clarity. "Mr. Hoffman, this is Jeanette Lewis, Eleanor Wright's granddaughter. Jeanette, good to hear from you. I've been expecting your call. Have you had a chance to review the documents I sent?" "Actually, no," I admitted. "After Grandma died, I put everything aside. But I'm ready now, and I have some questions about my role as executor." For the next 10 minutes, Gerald confirmed what I had only partially understood during our first conversation. My grandmother, who had lived modestly despite considerable wealth, had named me as the executor of her estate, not my father, her son, as everyone had assumed. "Your grandmother was very clear about her wishes," Gerald explained. "She had concerns about how certain family members managed money, and she trusted your judgment implicitly. Did she leave any specific instructions regarding my sister Amanda or her family?" "There was a letter addressed to you personally that should have been in the packet I sent. It might address those questions. Would you like me to email you another copy?" "Yes, please. As soon as possible." My final call was to my own bank, where I accessed my account information and confirmed that the check for Lily's replacement laptop would clear without issue. I had an emergency fund, not large, but enough to replace what had been destroyed while we figured out the rest. As I finished these calls, I noticed a file folder on Tom's desk labeled Family Trust, Confidential. Under normal circumstances, I would never invade someone's privacy by looking at their personal financial documents. But these weren't normal circumstances, and what I suspected wasn't just about money, it was about years of manipulation and lies. I opened the folder to find loan documents, 6 of them, each for substantial amounts, all from Wright Family Trust to Amanda and Tom Wallace, my grandmother's trust. The most recent loan, dated just 2 months before her death, was for $50,000 with the lake house listed as collateral. My grandmother had been lending my sister money for years, possibly without Tom's full knowledge, based on the fact that only Amanda had signed several of the acknowledgement forms. And the lake house, the showcase vacation property where my daughter's laptop had just been deliberately destroyed, was effectively owned by my grandmother's estate, of which I was now executor. I took photos of the key documents, then carefully replaced the folder exactly as I had found it. Then I checked my email to find 2 new messages, one from Detective Martinez with information about filing property damage reports, and one from Gerald Hoffman with several attachments, including a scanned letter in my grandmother's distinctive handwriting. I read it quickly, my hands trembling slightly as the full picture became clear. My grandmother had known about Amanda's financial manipulations all along. She had been keeping detailed records of every loan, every excuse, every promised repayment that never materialized. And she had changed her will accordingly, leaving me in charge of how the inheritance would be distributed based on character and need, not just family position. "Dear Jeanette," she had written, "you were always the strong one, even when you didn't realize your own strength. The time will come when the family dynamics must change. Trust your judgment when that moment arrives." Armed with this information and a clear plan forming in my mind, I left Tom's office and walked back outside where my family still waited by the fire pit, now arguing among themselves. They fell silent as I approached, watching warily as I stopped and looked at each of them in turn. "Lily and I will be staying at the Ridge Hotel tonight," I announced calmly. "I've just made reservations. We'll return tomorrow at 10 to discuss how we're going to handle this situation." Amanda let out a disbelieving laugh. "Handle what situation?" "It's done, Jeanette. The laptop is gone. Throwing a tantrum and storming off to a hotel isn't going to change that." "You're right about one thing," I agreed. "The laptop is gone. But this isn't about the laptop anymore. This is about years of disrespect, favoritism, and manipulation. And it ends now." "What are you talking about?" my father demanded. "I've just gotten off the phone with Grandma Eleanor's attorney," I said, watching their expressions carefully. "It seems there are some family financial matters we need to discuss. All of us. Including you, Tom. Especially you." Tom's eyebrows rose in surprise. "Eleanor's attorney? What does that have to do with what happened today?" "More than you might think," I replied enigmatically. "I'll explain everything tomorrow. For now, my daughter needs me." As I turned to leave, Amanda grabbed my arm. "What did you do in Tom's office?" she hissed, real fear in her eyes now. I gently removed her hand. "I did what I should have done years ago. I started protecting myself and my daughter." Walking to my car where Lily waited, I felt curiously light, as if a burden I'd carried my entire life had finally been set down. Tomorrow would be difficult, but necessary. Tonight, my priority was comforting my daughter and showing her that sometimes the strongest response to cruelty isn't an immediate explosion, but a carefully considered plan. As we drove away from the lake house, Lily finally spoke. "Mom? What happened back there? I've never seen you stand up to them like that." I reached over and squeezed her hand. "Let's just say I finally realized something important. We deserve better. And starting now, we're going to make sure we get it." The Ridge Hotel offered a stark contrast to the tense atmosphere we'd left behind at the lake house. Our room was simple but comfortable, with 2 queen beds and a view of the forest behind the property. After settling in, I ordered room service for Lily, who hadn't eaten much of her Thanksgiving dinner before the disaster occurred. As she picked at her club sandwich, I sat across from her at the small table by the window. "I'm so sorry about your laptop," I said gently. "What they did was inexcusable." Lily pushed her plate away, her appetite clearly gone. "It's not your fault, Mom. It's just." Her voice caught. "Why do they hate us so much? What did we ever do to them?" The question broke my heart because it contained such a fundamental misunderstanding, one I'd had myself for many years. "Sweetheart, this isn't about anything we did wrong," I explained. "Some people feel better about themselves by making others feel worse. Amanda has always been that way, and my parents have always enabled her. But that doesn't make it right, and it doesn't mean we have to accept it anymore." "What did you mean when you said we're going back tomorrow?" I don't want to see any of them ever again. I took a deep breath. I discovered some important information tonight. Information that changes everything about our family dynamics. Tomorrow, we're going to set some new boundaries and make sure what happened today never happens again. Lily looked skeptical. You've tried standing up to them before. They never listen. This time is different, I assured her. This time, I have leverage they can't ignore. I didn't share all the details with Lily that night. She was already dealing with enough emotional turmoil. Instead, I helped her focus on researching replacement laptops, promising her we would purchase a new one, an even better one, the very next day. By the time she fell asleep, she seemed less devastated, though still understandably hurt. While Lily slept, I stayed up reviewing everything I'd discovered and outlining my approach for the next morning. The more I examined the documents Gerald had sent, the clearer the picture became. Amanda had been systematically borrowing money from our grandmother for years, money that was never repaid, while simultaneously embezzling from Tom's family investment firm where she occasionally helped with the books. Tom, I suspected, had only partial knowledge of their financial situation. The stress lines on his face and his long hours at work suddenly made more sense. He was working harder and harder to maintain a lifestyle that was built on deception. By morning, I had a comprehensive plan and a calm resolve that surprised even me. After a quiet breakfast at the hotel, Lily and I drove back to the lake house, arriving precisely at 10 as I'd stated we would. The scene that greeted us was tense. Tom, Amanda, and my parents were sitting in the great room, not speaking to each other. Amanda's children were nowhere to be seen. "Where are the kids?" I asked as we entered. "I sent them to the neighbors," Tom replied, standing to greet us. He looked like he hadn't slept. "This conversation isn't for them." I nodded, appreciating his foresight. "That's probably best." We sat down, an uncomfortable silence filling the room until my father broke it. "Well, Jeanette, you called this meeting? What's this all about?" I looked at each of them in turn, then spoke directly to Lily. "Honey, would you mind giving us some adult time? There's a media room downstairs with streaming services. This might take a while." Lily hesitated. "Are you sure? I can stay if you want." "I'm sure," I said with confidence. "I'll come get you when we're done." After Lily had gone downstairs, I turned back to my family. "I'd like to start by showing you something." I took out my phone and played the recording from the previous day. Amanda's voice crystal clear as she mocked my daughter and encouraged her children to destroy the laptop, followed by my parents' laughter and dismissive comments. When it finished, Tom looked physically ill. My parents appeared uncomfortable but defensive. Amanda was furious. "You recorded us? Without permission? That's illegal." "Actually," I corrected her, "in this state, single-party consent is all that's required for legal recording. I was part of the conversation, so my consent was sufficient." But that's just the beginning. I pulled out copies of the photos I'd taken of the loan documents from Tom's office, placing them on the coffee table. "These are loans from Grandma Eleanor's trust to you and Tom, or sometimes just to you, Amanda. 6 loans totaling over $300,000 in the past 5 years. Loans that were never repaid." Tom picked up the documents, his expression shifting from confusion to shock. "I only knew about 2 of these, the down payment for this house and the renovation funds. When did you take out these others?" Amanda's face had drained of color. "Tom, I was going to tell you. We needed the money for the children's private school and the vacation to Europe last summer. You've been so stressed about work, I didn't want to burden you with financial details." "Financial details?" Tom's voice rose. "Amanda, this is over $200,000 I knew nothing about. Money we don't have to repay." My father interjected. "This is a private matter between Amanda and Tom. It has nothing to do with the incident yesterday." "Actually," I countered, "it has everything to do with it. Because Grandma Eleanor named me executor of her estate 3 months ago when she passed away. An estate that includes all these outstanding loans." The room went completely silent. "That's impossible," my father finally said. "I'm her son. I would be the executor." I handed him the official document from Gerald Hoffman. Grandma had concerns about financial management in the family. She left specific instructions about how her assets should be handled. As my father read the document, his face reddened with anger and disbelief. My mother peered over his shoulder, her expression shifting from dismissal to alarm. Furthermore, I continued, this lake house is listed as collateral on the most recent loan, a loan that, according to these documents, is now in default. Amanda stood up, visibly shaking. You can't do this to us. That money was our inheritance anyway. Mom and Dad always said the family money would come to us eventually. Perhaps, I acknowledged. But Grandma made it clear that character and responsibility would factor into her final distributions. She kept meticulous records of every time you asked for money, Amanda. Every excuse, every promise to repay that never materialized. I turned to Tom, whose shock had transformed into a kind of grim understanding. There's more. I've been in contact with a forensic accountant who's reviewed some irregularities at Wallace Investments. Tom's head snapped up. What irregularities? Systematic withdrawal of funds from client accounts. Small amounts from many accounts, designed to go unnoticed. The pattern started 3 years ago, around the time Amanda began helping with the books at the firm. Amanda lunged toward me, her face contorted with rage. You lying bitch! You have no proof of anything. Tom caught her arm before she could reach me. Stop, Amanda! Is this true? Have you been taking money from the business? Of course not. She's making it all up because she's jealous. She's always been jealous of me. I remained calm. I have statements, Amanda, and timestamps of when the transfers were made, all during hours you were at the office, using your login credentials. The forensic accountant has prepared a complete report. My father stood now, pointing at me accusingly. You went behind our backs, investigating your own sister? What kind of person does that to family? The kind who's watched her daughter be mistreated for years, I replied evenly. The kind who finally realized that true family doesn't destroy what others have worked for. True family supports each other. I reached into my bag and pulled out a final document, the handwritten letter from my grandmother. Grandma Eleanor saw everything clearly. She knew what was happening in this family long before I did. I read aloud. My dear Jeanette, I've watched for years as you've been treated as less than by those who should have cherished your strength and integrity. I've seen how they favor Amanda despite her manipulations and dishonesty. The money she's taken from me was never about need, it was about entitlement and appearance. I've kept every record, every request, waiting for the day when you would be ready to see the truth and act on it. That responsibility now falls to you, as executor of all I've built. Distribute what remains according to character, not relation. Some will call you cruel for holding others accountable, but true kindness sometimes requires difficult boundaries. The room was completely silent when I finished reading. Tom had sunk back onto the sofa, his head in his hands. Amanda stood frozen, her expression a mixture of rage and fear. My parents looked stunned, as if seeing me, really seeing me, for the first time. So here's what happens now, I said, my voice steady. First, Tom needs to conduct a complete audit of the business finances. I've already spoken with the authorities about the situation. They're awaiting my decision about whether to file formal charges regarding both the financial irregularities and yesterday's property destruction. You would send your own sister to jail? My mother gasped. I haven't decided yet, I answered honestly. That depends on what happens next. I turned to Tom. You have children to consider. Whatever Amanda has done, they still need their father. I'm willing to work with you to find a solution that protects them while ensuring accountability. Tom nodded slowly, gratitude flickering in his eyes. Thank you. Finally, I addressed my parents. For years, you've dismissed me and favored Amanda, regardless of our actual choices or character. You've criticized my marriage, my career, my parenting, while overlooking Amanda's dishonesty because she projected the image of success you valued. That ends today. My father began to object, but my mother placed a restraining hand on his arm, a dawning recognition in her eyes. What do you want from us, Jeanette? She asked quietly. Respect, I said simply. For me, and especially for Lily. Acknowledge the harm you've caused, make amends, and commit to change. Or we walk away permanently, and I execute Grandma's estate according to her explicit instructions regarding family members who refuse to take responsibility for their actions. I stood up, gathering my documents. You have 24 hours to decide. Lily and I will be staying at the Ridge Hotel until tomorrow morning. I've purchased a new laptop for her, a better one, and we'll be driving home after that. Your response will determine whether we ever have contact again. As I reached the door, Amanda found her voice again. You can't do this. You can't just rewrite the rules of this family because your feelings got hurt. I turned back one last time. I'm not rewriting anything, Amanda. I'm finally enforcing boundaries that should have existed all along. The choice about what happens next is yours. And with that, I went downstairs to collect Lily, leaving them to confront truths that had been hidden for far too long. 6 months later, on a perfect June afternoon, I sat in the auditorium of the State University Arts Center, watching Lily walk across the stage to receive her Outstanding Achievement Award at the conclusion of the Digital Arts Summer Program. The new laptop, a top-of-the-line model with even better specifications than the one that had been destroyed, had served her well throughout the intensive 8-week course. Her final project, a deeply moving animated short film about resilience and finding strength through adversity, had won first place in the national student competition. As the audience applauded, I spotted my parents in the row behind me, their faces alight with genuine pride, not the conditional approval they'd shown in the past, but real appreciation for their granddaughter's talent. Beside them sat Tom with his 3 children, all of them better behaved than I would have ever thought possible 6 months ago. The transformation in our family hadn't been quick or easy. The 24 hours following our confrontation at the lake house had been tense, filled with angry phone calls, tearful recriminations, and finally, reluctant acknowledgement of hard truths. Tom had been the first to respond constructively. After conducting a preliminary audit that confirmed Amanda's embezzlement from the family firm, he'd faced the painful decision of whether to press charges against his wife. In the end, with my support, he chose a path that prioritized rehabilitation and restitution over punishment. Amanda had initially refused to accept responsibility, alternating between tearful pleas for forgiveness and venomous accusations that I was destroying her life out of spite. It wasn't until Tom filed for legal separation and the forensic accountant's report was completed that she finally broke down and admitted the full extent of her actions. The lake house had been sold to repay the defaulted loans and begin making restitution to the clients whose accounts had been affected. Amanda and Tom had moved into a modest home in the suburbs, living on a strict budget for the first time in their marriage. Amanda had been required to enter both financial counseling and therapy as conditions of avoiding criminal charges, while the children were enrolled with a child psychologist who specialized in behavioral issues. My parents' journey to accountability had been equally difficult. After decades of favoring Amanda and dismissing me, they'd struggled to recognize the patterns in their own behavior. The turning point came during a facilitated family therapy session when the therapist had them listen to recordings of their own comments at various family gatherings over the years. Hearing themselves repeatedly belittle my choices, while praising Amanda's, regardless of the actual circumstances or outcomes, had been a painful awakening. We didn't see it, my mother had admitted, tears streaming down her face. We thought we were being supportive of Amanda because she needed more help. We didn't realize we were enabling destructive behavior and hurting you and Lily in the process. Their relationship with Lily had been the slowest to heal. The memory of them laughing as her laptop burned couldn't be erased overnight. But they had committed to earning back her trust through consistent action rather than empty words. They'd attended every performance, competition, and exhibition of her work over the past 6 months. Today, watching her receive recognition for her talent, I could see genuine joy in their expressions. As executor of my grandmother's estate, I had made difficult but fair decisions about the distribution of assets. Rather than dividing everything equally regardless of character, as had been the family expectation, I had followed Eleanor's explicit instructions to consider need, responsibility, and growth potential. Tom received funds to stabilize his business and establish college accounts for his children. My parents, who had indeed lost much of their retirement savings through poor financial decisions, received enough to secure their future, but with structured disbursements rather than lump sums. Amanda received nothing directly, but I established a trust that would provide for her needs while she worked to rebuild her life and make amends. For Lily, I created a college fund that would allow her to pursue her education without the financial stress I had experienced. And for myself, I used a portion to finally launch the small accounting firm I'd always dreamed of owning, providing me with greater flexibility and income than my previous positions. The applause faded as the ceremony concluded, and students began finding their families in the crowd. Lily spotted me and hurried over, her award clutched proudly in her hands. "Mom, can you believe it? They're featuring my project in the national showcase next month." I hugged her tightly. "I'm so proud of you, not just for winning, but for how you've handled everything these past months." My parents approached somewhat cautiously, still mindful of the new boundaries we'd established. "That was quite an achievement, Lily," my father said warmly. "Your talent is extraordinary." "Thank you, Grandpa," Lily replied, her response polite but not yet completely relaxed. The healing was ongoing, but progress was undeniable. Tom's children, who had once seemed like unredeemable terrors, approached Lily with surprising deference. "Your animation was awesome," Ethan said, now 13 and remarkably changed from the entitled boy who had thrown her laptop into the fire. "Could you maybe show me how you did that lighting effect sometime?" Lily glanced at me, then nodded. "Sure, we could set something up next weekend if you want." The genuine interest in Ethan's eyes reflected the intensive work Tom had done with all 3 children. Without Amanda's toxic influence encouraging their worst behavior, and with proper therapy and consistent boundaries, they were slowly becoming thoughtful, respectful young people. Tom joined us, giving me a quick side hug. "Jeanette, thank you for the tickets. This meant a lot to the kids, seeing what's possible when you put in the work." "How's everything going?" I asked quietly, while the children chatted among themselves. He sighed. "The divorce will be finalized next month. Amanda's still struggling with the financial restrictions, but her therapist says she's finally starting to take responsibility. The kids see her twice a week under supervision. And the business? Almost back to normal. We've repaid all the affected clients, and the board has been surprisingly supportive given the circumstances." He paused. "I couldn't have navigated this without your help, Jeanette. You could have destroyed all of us, but you chose a path that gave everyone a chance to rebuild." "That was always the goal," I replied honestly. "Not punishment, but growth. Not retribution, but restoration." Later that evening, we all gathered at a restaurant near campus to celebrate Lily's achievement. Sitting around that table, my parents, Tom, his children, Lily, and me, I marveled at how different the family dynamic felt from the Thanksgiving disaster 6 months earlier. The conversation flowed naturally, with each person given space to speak and be heard. The children were engaged rather than absorbed in devices. My parents asked thoughtful questions about Lily's future plans without offering unsolicited advice. Tom discussed his new work-life balance that allowed him to be more present for his children. As dessert was served, my father unexpectedly raised his glass. "I'd like to propose a toast," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "To Jeanette." All eyes turned to me in surprise. "6 months ago, we were a family in name only," he continued. "We had lost sight of what truly matters: respect, honesty, and supporting each other's dreams. Jeanette had the courage to hold up a mirror to our behavior when it would have been easier to walk away. She chose the harder path of truth and accountability. And because of that choice, we're sitting here today, together and healing." He looked directly at me, tears in his eyes. "Daughter, I'm sorry it took us so long to see your strength. Thank you for not giving up on us even when we deserved it." The table was silent as he finished, everyone processing the unprecedented acknowledgement from a man who had never before admitted being wrong about anything. "To Jeanette," Tom echoed, raising his glass. "To Mom," Lily said proudly. As everyone joined the toast, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in decades. The journey had been painful, the confrontations difficult, but the outcome was worth every uncomfortable moment. Later that night, as Lily and I drove home, she turned to me thoughtfully. "Mom, do you think Grandma Eleanor somehow knew all this would happen? It's like she was setting up the pieces for you to finally stand up for yourself." I smiled, remembering my grandmother's wise eyes and quiet determination. I think she understood something I'm only now learning, that true love sometimes means setting firm boundaries. That family isn't just about blood relation, but about how we treat each other, and that it's never too late to break destructive patterns and create something healthier. I'm glad you didn't let them get away with it, Lily said softly. Not just because of the laptop, but because of how they treated you all those years. The laptop was just the final straw, I explained. Sometimes we need a moment that crystallizes everything we've been feeling but couldn't articulate. That night, watching something you loved being destroyed while they laughed, it suddenly made clear what I'd been trying to ignore for decades. "Do you think Amanda will ever really change?" she asked. I considered this carefully. I hope so. Real change is possible, but it has to come from within. The structures we've put in place give her the opportunity, but she has to make that choice herself, every day. As we pulled into our driveway, I felt grateful for our modest but comfortable home, a place where Lily had always been valued, her talents encouraged, her personhood respected. The journey of the past 6 months had taught us both that standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary for authentic relationships to flourish. Some might call what I did at the lake house revenge, but I see it differently. It was a recalibration, a long overdue balancing of the scales that allowed everyone the opportunity to grow into better versions of themselves. My sister was learning accountability. My parents were learning respect. Tom and his children were learning healthier family dynamics. And I had learned that setting boundaries isn't just an act of self-respect. It can be the most loving thing you do for others who need limits to become their best selves. The laptop incident turned out to be not an ending, but a beginning. A painful, necessary catalyst for transformation that none of us could have imagined 6 months earlier. And watching Lily flourish, no longer diminished by toxic family dynamics, has been worth every difficult conversation, every uncomfortable confrontation. Sometimes, the greatest gift we can give those we love is the courage to hold them accountable, not with rage or revenge, but with clear-eyed compassion and unwavering boundaries. That's the lesson I hope Lily carries forward. That true strength lies not in enduring mistreatment, but in standing firmly for what's right, especially when it's difficult. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who couldn't see the harm they were causing? Did you find the strength to stand up for yourself? Or are you still struggling with that challenge? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's sometimes the most loving choice we can make. Thank you for listening, and remember, it's never too late to create healthier patterns in any relationship.